What's up, Pisces? Welcome to your September 2020 Creativity Tarot reading. My name is Kaylee Jean, and welcome to my channel. I record these readings for artists, entrepreneurs, and anyone who's working on their personal growth or self-expression. So if those areas of life are important for you, I encourage you to go ahead and keep listening. I also always like to say, in case you're new here, that my readings can be used for your sun, moon, or your rising sign, and it's also possible if sometimes they don't resonate, particularly at the beginning of the month. A lot of times what I hear from people is that when they first heard the reading, it didn't really make sense, but then when they come back at the end of the month, a lot more of the themes start to stand out and relate to, some of the experiences that they had during the month. Okay, Pisces, while I was tuning in for you, I got a very logistical energy coming through from you. I feel like September is a month where, first of all, we have your full moon, so that's pretty significant in general, but even, separately just from the astrology, in the meditation, I really felt like there's this strategy and sort of pragmatism and almost kind of like, I don't know what the word would be, maybe a little blunt. I don't know if it's okay to say that, but I feel like you're potentially going to be kind of telling it like it is this month. And it might be sort of refreshing to be doing that in some way. So if you are in a helping profession, if you're a healer or a therapist, or if you are a nurse even, or somebody that works and counsels with other people, I feel like there's something about your honesty that's going to be really needed by your clients or by whoever you're trying to help. I feel like you have a lot to say this month, and you have a lot of good insights to offer. And so I feel like this message is kind of coming through to remind you of that, so that you don't hold things back too much, because there's a possibility that you might on occasion kind of hold back because you don't want to be too forward, or you don't maybe want to impose, and it's always good to kind of word things obviously in an appropriate way, so that the other person on the receiving end doesn't necessarily feel like you're pushing anything on them. But I really feel like there's just a lot that other people in your life can get from you this month when you're just very forthcoming about your thoughts, because honestly I think you just have some answers and some guidance and some ideas to share. The other thing that I was kind of getting for you, Pisces, is that I feel like you have a pretty big dream or goal on your mind right now. And I feel like this, whatever this is, it's very much something that can be accomplished. Okay, that's the other thing that I really feel is there for you as an energetic potential, something that feels pretty big and far-reaching and kind of expansive, really, that you're thinking about, or that you have kind of on your bucket list. In a way, it's something that you want to achieve in your lifetime, but it feels like a really big goal, or it feels like maybe it's a newer goal, but it feels like you're a ways off from it. It's totally doable. It's totally doable. That's the other message that's coming through. And again, I think kind of like the other message, it comes down to your willingness to just be honest with yourself and be honest with other people in your life about what your real truth is, and what your real desires are. And when you just interact with life in that kind of spontaneous way, it's really about honoring yourself. And when you do that, I feel like people respond very positively to you. So I hope that's helpful, a helpful message for someone out there. Let's go ahead and take a look at your cards. Okay. And I'm also going to get your animal your oracle cards. Okay. And I'll get you a Bob Ross message for my creative Pisceans. Here we go. And a surrender oracle card. All the links to all these decks will be below. Okay. So we've got the Lamb as your path and the Swan as the influence. Wow, these are two really beautiful cards. And I actually don't know that I've really ever seen them coming up together, but they really look like they belong together now that I'm looking at them. This is really sweet. Yeah, this is really, really beautiful. So it makes sense to me based on just the fact that we do have a full moon in your sign. You get one full moon, generally speaking, per year. So for you, it is on September 2nd. And when you have a full moon in your sign, it marks kind of the halfway point in the year for you. So if you have, if your sun is in Pisces, obviously this is kind of like your half birthday in a way, generally speaking, in Virgo season. So it represents kind of like a big, almost when you have a full moon, it's like a spotlight. It's shining on just the growth that you've accomplished at this point in the year. It's kind of putting the spotlight on you and how you have experienced different lessons throughout the year and how you're sort of growing. But it also can tend to, particularly when it's in a water sign, when you have like a water sign as your sun or your moon or whatever, when you have a full moon on something also significant in your chart, typically it can create like a more powerful energy of emotional kind of feelings, but not necessarily in a negative way. In Pisces, it's very dreamy. It's very much something that feels inspiring, or maybe even I could see some of you, if your art tends to lean more towards like fantasy, like if you're a fantasy fiction writer or somebody who does like anime or just like kind of fantastical illustrations or storylines, I could see like this energy really, really being productive for you. That's kind of the first feeling that I get when I look at these, is this is very conducive to like effortless creativity. This is a very conducive energy this month for you to really engage with your creative side and to kind of be emotionally aligned with what you're doing, so that like the words are just flowing out on the page. If you're a writer, you're just writing like crazy, or if you're a painter, you're painting like a person that has just lost their mind. It's just like, whoa, it's just happening, and it's very vivid and quick. The way that your inspiration becomes a manifestation is very quick, relatively speaking. So this just looks like a very positive energy for those of you who are like very, very creative out there, which I know many of you guys are. The path card being the Lamb and the influence also being the Swan also to me speaks of the potential for intuitive development. For many of you, the Lamb represents kind of like purity of consciousness and very, very high vibrations. So some of you could be working with different styles of meditation, or maybe even spiritual practices. Home clearing for some reason comes to mind, or space clearing. Different things that you do that kind of affect the environment that you're in are all kind of increasing your sensitivity and increasing your basically your connection to your inner voice. So whatever you're doing right now in regards to those areas of life, Pisces, I think they're just kind of continuing to develop a very high and very pristine vibration within you. And the swan as the influence, again, this is that card of effortless creativity. This is that elegance that we see that kind of, to me, speaks really of mastery over a craft, or of being able to kind of be in the flow, like a channeling state almost. And there's a lot of joy that comes from that. So, and also a lot of productivity, but it doesn't feel hard. It doesn't necessarily feel like you're, because sometimes, like, I'm a writer, and sometimes I'll set a word limit for the day, like, okay, I'm gonna write 2,000 words this afternoon or whatever, and sometimes it just flows through me, and I'm like, whoa, I wrote 2,600 words. I didn't even realize I was going way over my quota. I was just involved in what I was doing. And then other days I'm like, okay, 1,500 words, like, all right, like, got like 500 more. So, some days it's just, and there's also periods of time, like some months are going to just be more flowing and easier to get things done. And I really feel like September is one of those months for you. So let's take a look at your cards and we'll get some more insights. We've got 9 of Wands with the 7 of Wands for the first week. 9 of Pentacles with the King of Cups. I was waiting for the Wheel of Fortune. After I saw the 9 of Wands, I was like, okay, the Wheel of Fortune is coming. I could just tell. The King of Swords, Knight of Swords with the Chariot and the Knight of Cups. Interesting. Okay. So if you're familiar with my channel, when I do read reversals, I don't read them strictly as like, and the opposite of the book definition of the card. It's just not how my practice is. I just read based on what I'm kind of seeing in the reading and in the spread. I think that there's something that it's becoming clear you're ready to either let go of, or that you're ready to compost, that you're ready to kind of give back to life. It's almost like a subtle kind of surrender that I'm picking up in the first week of September. And that's, like I said before, remember when I said that your full moon is on September 2nd. So the first week of September is really about letting go of things that are excessive on you, or things that are causing you to feel a little bit like, I want to say, burnt out, or things that kind of catch you in those moments where you almost feel like raw. Like, I don't know if you get this sometimes, Pisces, but sometimes when we have so much going on in our lives and we have all of these different responsibilities and we have different things that we have to accomplish and manage, and we are really spreading ourselves thin, a person can just say like one very slight criticism and we almost kind of like crumple. Like, I don't know if you would kind of get my drift here, but I almost feel like there's this sense of like this full moon, if you can imagine, it's kind of stretching your inner dimensions. It's stretching you on an emotional level. And so you feel like you can't, almost like there's like no more to give. Like, you might feel burnt out, or you might feel drained, or you might just feel a little raw, because it's like you're working so hard, or you're trying to do things, right? You're trying to put yourself in a different situation, or you're trying to, put out a lot of effort to improve your situation in some way. And then like one little criticism, it kind of just, when you're in that state where you're just stretching yourself too much, it's like it just kind of, it's like pops a balloon, and then you just kind of like, cool. So that's kind of what I feel, but it's actually a really good thing, because it makes you realize that you've been carrying more than you need to. And the feeling that I actually get is like refreshment after that first week, because you go from the 9 of Wands, which is, she's got way too many wands. She feels kind of burnt out. She looks maybe a little scared or concerned or just tired. And the reversal here with the 7 to me is like when you release a couple of those wands that are stressing you out and making you feel like you're, can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. Once you let go of a couple of those, then I feel like you get this sense of feeling much more secure. So it's actually through simplifying and paring things down, Pisces, that you actually start to see the forest through the trees. Do you know what I mean? It's like you start to really get a handle on things, and it feels very refreshing. And you actually feel like there's even, a sense of triumph almost that I get with this card. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I was getting to that raw place, or I was getting burnt out because I was just trying to put too much pressure on myself. But when you stop doing that and you just mentally and physically release that, whatever the excesses are, then you're fine. And you realize like, well, I'm actually doing really well. Like it was really just me trying to fit a square peg into a round hole there for a little bit, that was what was causing the issue. So it's really a perspective shift, and maybe even a slight modification to your lifestyle and your expectations of yourself. We should expect a lot of ourselves because we grow that way, but there's also a limit to that. We can't do more than a few things realistically on any given day. Life is full of, little issues that come up that we have to resolve. And so it's just not realistic to expect so much of ourselves all of the time. It's better to kind of have modest expectations that are fulfilled, right? Like humble and committed, right? Those are like better vibrations than like I have to do everything and like cross off all of my little boxes every single day, or I'll feel like a failure. That's going to probably be a recipe for a meltdown. So the second week of September, we've got the Nine of Pentacles and the King of Cups. So I'm just going to turn these upright so that we can really go into them and look at them. One thing that I get with this is the potential for some kind of, I really feel like there's a potential for like an opportunity to either collaborate or work with someone. This is particularly true if you're a Pisces who owns your own business, or who is, maybe does like contract work or whatever. There's something here that I really get that feels like people are looking at what you're doing. Pisces, people are looking at what you're doing, and they could be kind of, I don't know, like you might get an email, for example, from somebody who wants to feature you or who wants to maybe collaborate with you. And it could be a really good opportunity, but I also think for some of you it might feel like it's not quite the right fit. I can't tell you how many like things that I've turned down from people like that just either it's like maybe like for me, I can only talk about my examples, but you can apply it to your own life. But what kind of this reminds me of is I've had people come to me and ask me to participate in making a new kind of tarot program for them on their website, where I would record videos and it would be like a card of the day kind of thing. And then there would be like a random shuffle card drawing random generator, and then they would get like the video that I had made associated with that card, and that would be their card of the day. I've had like some pretty high profile people reach out to me, one of which was that person who wanted to do that on a very high profile astrology website. But it just ultimately, there were too many issues with that I felt like based on the contract that they sent me. I just had a kind of a feeling that it was a little too corporate, and it was very limiting in terms of like what they wanted me to agree to in order to do the work. It was basically giving them complete creative control over everything. And I just felt really uncomfortable with some of the ways that things were worded in the contract. So I guess just turned it down. But that's kind of what these cards coming up in reverse reminds me of, because on the one hand, the King of Cups can be, it can be a card of like potential like dreams coming true in a way. He looks very triumphant and celebratory. He's got the fish jumping between cups, and she's even got, all this beautiful abundance and pentacles, and like just everything around her just looks really beautiful. But the fact that these came up in reverse, I almost feel like it's, some of you could be potentially receiving attention, which is a good thing. It's a proof of concept. It's proof that you're on the right track because people are noticing you, people may be wanting to collaborate with you. But just always make sure that you are being self-honoring in every choice that you make. For some of you, if it's an opportunity that actually feels right and that feels like there's a fair negotiation process involved, then by all means go for it. But some of you are going to feel like, this is a positive experience where I am seeing, proof of my concept or proof that my product is good because people are reviewing it or they want to work with me. But it's maybe not the right thing for you right now to engage in further, because maybe you have questions, or maybe you just need to do more research about the company or the individual, whatever the case may be. So there is a sense of potential opportunities coming your way, but maybe in the second week of September, it'd be a good idea to really meditate on those and do your research. Even though it may sound like a really good thing at the onset, your perspective could change, let's put it that way, as you get to understand more about the collaboration or the project in question. Your third week of September cards are the Wheel of Fortune and the Knight of Swords. So this, I really see, Pisces, as I feel like the Knight of Swords is you in the situation, and the Wheel of Fortune is kind of the environment or the situation that you're going into. And I feel like this is really about being brave, honestly, being brave and going into a very new environment. And mixing things up. So what are some of the ways that this could, be the case for you? It could be that you're starting a new job in the third week. It could be that you are starting a new channel if you're like a YouTube person. It could be starting work on a totally new social media platform. It could be that you're writing a book even. But the Wheel of Fortune in reverse, I think, it's not a bad sign at all. In this context, I feel like it's the world being turned upside down in a way. It's something that's totally different. It's something totally unique to you that you haven't done before. And the Knight of Swords is kind of, I feel like there's this bravery and this sense of preparation as well. Pisces, if you're going into a new environment in the third week of September, even if it's like a group setting or maybe a group chat online, because not many of us are, I guess, getting together socially at the moment, but if it's like attending some kind of community or whatever, I think that it's really in the preparation that you're going to plant the seeds of success. What I mean by that is having a very clear intention set within yourself before you go into it. So let's say if you were going to lead a workshop over Skype or Zoom or something along those lines, these two cards would be about like having a clear, not like scripting, everything. So you don't have to feel like you're just doing a performance or anything like that. But I feel like it's more about just preparing yourself mentally, because it's a swords card, which is an air card. Preparing yourself mentally for the kind of questions you're going to get asked, for sure, knowing how to best serve the people that are going to be coming to it, or just knowing how you're going to handle the energy, how you're going to handle maybe difficult questions as well, and just also on a more broad level, how you want to make other people feel. I can't tell you enough how important and useful just this tip has been in my business, is just before you sit down to have a conversation with someone, or for me, like if I'm going to do a reading or if I'm going to teach a class, I always spend some time thinking about how I want the person on the other end of whatever I'm doing to feel. And it's such an important important thing to do, because a lot of times if we don't do that, we kind of get caught up in our own narrative of the situation, and we're not necessarily kind of rooting back into the other person's experience and really trying to see it from their perspective. So this is a recipe for success no matter what you're doing in that third week, Pisces. It's really about setting a clear intention about what you want the other person in the situation to feel while you're having a conversation with them. Do you want to make them feel heard? Do you want them to feel supported? Do you want them to feel hopeful and optimistic about the future? Do you want them to come away feeling like they've gotten really pragmatic solutions to their issues or problems? You can use this tip as well with family or with your significant other or with children. Just thinking for a few moments before you enter into an interaction about how you want the other people to receive whatever you are there to give, and how you want them to benefit from having interacted with you at all. Is just such a great way to align kind of with that higher intention, with that higher vibration. And then you go into the situation, and it's such a great tool because you don't have to think about that again. Once you go into it with that intention, it's amazing. There really is this magic that happens where it just carries over, and you don't have to keep tuning into it necessarily. It's just you set that intention, and then that's subconsciously just what you do. And so I think that's a super, super useful thing, particularly for you, because I feel like with the Wheel of Fortune, it's like you're going into this very unknown or uncertain thing, right? Like you don't feel comfortable necessarily, but the Knight of Swords is saying you have everything you need. Look, you're totally prepared, right? Like you're mentally prepared, you're physically prepared, you've got your armor, you've got your horse, you've got everything that you need. You got your horsepower. So yeah, that's kind of what I see about that week. So hopefully that's helpful. The third or the fourth week of September, you have the Chariot with the Knight of Cups. So again, we have motion cards. Knights are cards that represent like people being in motion. And they kind of tend to move situations forward. So some of you, I know it's kind of sounds maybe funny, but some of you could actually be traveling at the end of the month. I know not many of us are traveling much right now, but that could be the case for some of you with the Chariot and the Knight of Cups. I would say it might be travel for pleasure more than work. I mean, some of you, it could be work related as well, but you're also just really enjoying it with the Knight of Cups. Because the Knight of Cups it's a card of affection. It's a card of doing what we love and following our bliss, as Joseph Campbell says. And with the Chariot card, it's about kind of really making things happen in your life. So the fact that the Knight of Cups came up in reverse, I'm not really concerned about. If anything, I think it might be relating back to kind of what was coming through in the meditation for you guys about just how I was kind of picking up on a very logistical energy from you, a very pragmatic energy from you. While you may be taking action on things that really fill your cup and bring you, an inner sense of joy, the fact that this card came up in reverse and the Chariot card, which is more of a serious, profound, major arcana card, larger energy, that is more kind of process-oriented and results-driven. It could be showing that, yes, this is something that you're aligned with on your path, but it's also something that you're handling with a sense of maturity and that you're taking seriously, I guess, if that makes sense. At the end of the month, you could also be challenging yourself in some way, because the Chariot card is also about self-discipline and self-mastery. So it's where we kind of see the whole picture of ourselves. Like we can see our strengths, but we can also see our weaknesses. And we just accept that. we're not hard on ourselves for our weaknesses, and we don't go into hubris about our strengths. It's just like, okay, yeah, I'm good at this, and I know that I, in the past have not been super consistent about this. And so you kind of take that whole picture and you can work with it and maybe get some support for the things that you're not so strong in, and then really like exploit the things that you're good at, like really push yourself on the things that you are good at, and also try and raise the bar a little bit for the things that you tend to be a little bit weaker on, because it really is about mastery in that card. It really is about kind of looking at all of the different sides of you, symbolized by the dark and the light sphinx. It's like looking at all of the different aspects of you and working with them and recognizing that they all have a place. So there's a certain integration, I feel, of your gifts and your strengths at the end of the month that you'll benefit from really just kind of taking, the reins with something and really just running with it. You could also need to kind of persist in spite of, like, I guess, resistance, like creative resistance at the end of the month. So keep that in mind. As the sun moves into Libra, you may feel resistance about something, but your best move is just to do it anyway and keep going forward. If you feel that it really is the right thing for you, obviously you have to be sure that you're intuitively aligned and that you're on the right path, and know that it's resistance and not like your intuition telling you that it's not the right thing. But you can usually tell the difference based on the familiarity of the emotion, right? Like, I know what creative resistance feels like. I know what it feels like when I'm just like, oh, I don't want to write today. Like, I just don't. But that's the same feeling I've had for, 10 years since I started writing more seriously. So that's not my intuition. That's just creative resistance coming up, that I need to just work through it, And there's actually a really good book on this. It's called The War of Art, and it's by it's Stephen something. I'm blanking on his last name right now because it's been a while since I read it, but that could be a really good one if you really strongly related to that message about creative resistance and kind of knowing when to push through it and keep working, and when to, give yourself a break or, reroute and change plans. That's a really useful book. It's called The War of Art. You can look that up. All right, so let's take a look at your Bob Ross message. He says, "This is not something you should labor over or worry about. Enjoy it. If painting does nothing else, it should make you happy." Wow, beautiful. Yep, and there you go. That kind of speaks again to what we were just talking about. It is about kind of just finding that flow and just going with it. Even if you are feeling like you're putting a little too much pressure on yourself, sometimes that can just be mitigated with, just closing your eyes and taking a few breaths and just taking a step back. We tend to take things pretty seriously, particularly with our projects, if we're self-employed, if it's also our business, right? It's kind of a big deal, but I think that it also has to be fun, Pisces, and Pisces know that. Pisces understand that. All right, wow, your surrender card is surrender to your soul's path. It says, "Your life's journey has been perfectly designed for your soul's growth. Embrace every lesson and every moment." That's beautiful. A couple of other signs have gotten this card, so it seems like this is kind of a destiny month for a lot of people. Your Sacred Destiny Oracle card is flow. Just like I was just saying, it is about kind of just going with the flow, being easy on yourself, finding that space of no resistance, where you can just keep honing your craft and keep being creative and working on your projects, working on yourself as well, but doing it in a way that is just easy. It's just easy on yourself. You can just let go of the excess, Pisces. So I hope this reading has been helpful to you. I hope it gives you something useful to think about, Pisces. I'm sending you tons of love and light. I hope you have an amazing month in September. If you'd like to let me know you're still with me, just leave me a little purple heart in the comments below, or just write purple hearts or "I'm still with you" or something like that. I love seeing those little notes from you guys because my readings are pretty long, so I love seeing that people are still watching to the very end. You can always like and subscribe to this channel if you want to support me. You can donate even just $1 as well, is super helpful and supportive to all of the time and energy that I put into these readings. And I wish you an amazing month in September. Please take care of yourselves, Pisces. Stay safe. Love you guys so much, and I will talk to you next month.